Chosen one, what if I told you that September 21st isn't just another date circled on your calendar, but the exact moment heaven has been holding its breath for since the day you were born? What if missing this day doesn't just delay your blessing, but permanently redirects what God already wrapped with your name on it, to someone else who was paying attention? What if the very promise you've been crying for, praying for, bleeding for in the midnight hours is standing at your door right now? But if you're asleep on September 21st, it will knock once and walk away forever. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. There are days that look ordinary on a calendar, but carry the weight of eternity. There are moments disguised as just another Tuesday, another sunrise, another cup of coffee. But in the realm of the Spirit, they are Passover nights. They are Red Sea mornings. They are the third day when stones roll away and tombs become empty. September 21st is one of those days. The enemy is working overtime right now, whispering in your ear that this is just religious hype, just another date, just another message. But your spirit knows better, doesn't it? That's why you can't look away. That's why something deep in your bones started trembling the moment you saw that number. 21. The number of divine completion, the number that appears when heaven is about to complete what earth tried to abort. Think about the Israelites in Egypt. God told Moses, "At midnight I will strike." Exodus 11:4. Midnight wasn't just a time, it was the time. And every household that ignored the instructions, that treated that night like any other night, woke up to devastation. But those who listened, who obeyed, who marked their doorposts, they walked out of slavery into destiny while their enemies drowned behind them. September 21st carries that same weight. This is your midnight hour, your Passover moment, your hinge point between what was and what's about to be. But here's what breaks my heart: most believers will scroll right past this warning. They'll treat September 21st like they treat every other day. Wake up, check their phone, complain about their problems, go back to sleep, and they'll never know. They'll never know that the door they've been pounding on for years finally swung open while they were distracted by notifications and noise. On this day, doors will either lock shut or swing wide open, and only those who are awake, truly awake, will see them. Only those whose spirits are sharp enough to discern heaven's movement in the midst of earth's chaos will step through. Before we go deeper, I want to thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Spirit lead. If your spirit already feels the weight of this moment, if something ancient in your chest just woke up, if you know this isn't coincidence, type "I will not miss it" in the comments right now. Because what I'm about to reveal will either save your destiny or expose why you've been running in circles for years. September 21st is coming. The question, Island, will you be ready? Why does God mark certain days with fire while letting others pass in silence? Why did he choose the 17th day of the second month to flood the earth? Why did he wait exactly 40 days before opening the windows of heaven? Why does Scripture record specific dates, specific hours, specific moments, unless time itself carries weight in the kingdom of God? You see, beloved, the Almighty doesn't operate in randomness. He doesn't throw darts at a calendar and say, "Let's do something special here." No. Every date he marks is a divine fingerprint. Every appointed time is a cosmic hinge point. And September 21st, this date that's been burning in your spirit, is no accident. Let me take you back to Noah. Genesis 7:11 tells us the exact day the flood began. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up. God didn't just say sometime in Noah's old age. He marked the day. Why? Because precision matters in prophecy. Timing matters in deliverance. You can build the ark perfectly, gather the animals flawlessly, but if you miss the day the door closes, you drown with everyone else. Think about Moses on Mount Sinai. Exodus 24-16 says, "And the glory of the Lord abode upon Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days, and the 7th day he called unto Moses out of the midst of the cloud. 6 days of waiting, 6 days of staring at glory he couldn't touch. But on the 7th day, the appointed day, heaven opened, and Moses received the law that would govern nations for millennia." Had Moses gotten impatient on day 5 and walked away, he would have returned to the camp empty-handed. The timing wasn't just important, it was everything. And what about Jesus? John 11 records Lazarus dying. Jesus deliberately waited. 2 days passed. People wept. Martha complained, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." But Jesus knew something they didn't. He was waiting for the 4th day, the day Jewish tradition said the soul permanently left the body. Why? Because resurrection needed to be undeniable. The timing wasn't cruelty, it was strategy. Now hear me clearly. Chosen one. September 21st is encoded with the number that appears when God is completing a divine cycle, 21. Look at Daniel 10. The prophet prayed and fasted for 21 days, 3 full weeks, and nothing happened. The heavens were brass. Silence screamed louder than any answer. But on day 21, an angel broke through and said, "From the first day that you set your heart to understand, your words were heard, and I am come for your words." Daniel 10:12. 21 days of warfare, 21 days of resistance. But on day 21, breakthrough crashed through every barrier hell erected. This number appears when delay is over, when the enemy's legal right to block you expires, when heaven says, "Enough, time's up, release what belongs to them." You've been waiting, haven't you? Praying the same prayer so long your knees have calluses, believing for the same promise until your faith feels like a muscle cramping from overuse, checking your bank account, your health report, your relationships, wondering if God wrote your address wrong. But what if, listen to me, what if September 21st is your Daniel 10:12 moment? What if the angel assigned to your breakthrough has been battling in the unseen realm, and this date is when he finally reaches you? But here's what terrifies me. Here's what keeps me up at night praying for those who won't hear this warning. Missing September 21st isn't like missing a birthday party where you can show up fashionably late with an excuse. This is Passover night. This is the day the manna stops falling because you've entered Canaan. This is the moment the old season locks behind you and the new one opens ahead, but only if you're positioned correctly. Think about the Israelites at the Red Sea. Exodus 14:15 records God saying to Moses, "Wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel, that they go forward." There was a moment, a specific moment, when complaining needed to stop and movement needed to start. Miss that moment, and Pharaoh's army catches you. Wait too long, and the waters close before you cross. Timing wasn't a suggestion, it was survival. September 21st carries that same weight for the chosen ones living in these last days. You're not just approaching another day on the calendar. You're approaching the completion of a spiritual equation God has been calculating since before you were born. Every test you passed added to it. Every night you didn't quit multiplied it. Every tear you sowed in secret has been compounding interest in heaven's economy. And September 21st is when the vault opens. But, and hear this with trembling, if you're distracted when the vault opens, if you're scrolling through social media when heaven is calling your name, if you're complaining about yesterday when God is handing you tomorrow, the vault will close, and it won't open again. Not because God is cruel, but because divine timing operates in windows, not warehouses. Miss the window, and what was meant for you gets reassigned to someone whose spirit was awake. This isn't about scaring you into obedience. This is about waking you up to opportunity. God doesn't mark days to trick you. He marks them to position you. September 21st is your set time, your appointed hour, your Kairos moment wrapped in 24 ordinary hours that carry extraordinary weight. Miss September 21st, and you're not just missing a day, you're breaking a chain God spent years preparing to snap off your wrists. You're walking away from the prison door just as the guard is turning the key. You're leaving Egypt the night before the Red Sea parts. Can you afford that? Can you afford to treat this like just another message, just another date, just another spiritual teaching you consume and forget by dinner? Drop 21 in the comments if you feel this number tugging at your spirit, because that simple act, that small obedience might be the hinge that swings your entire future wide open. Now let me show you what happens when chosen ones ignore divine appointments. You want to know what happens when you ignore September 21st? Let me paint you a picture so vivid it'll haunt your sleep tonight. That blessing God wrapped with your name on it. The one He's been protecting, preparing, positioning for decades. It doesn't just sit there waiting forever. No. When you miss your appointed time, heaven doesn't pause, it redirects. That miracle gets handed to someone else who was awake enough to recognize their moment. Think I'm being dramatic? Let me show you something that'll stop your heart. Genesis 25. Esau walks in from the field, tired, hungry, looking for comfort. His brother Jacob is cooking stew, just stew. Red lentil stew, nothing special, nothing eternal. Just temporary satisfaction for temporary hunger. And Esau, the firstborn, the heir, the one carrying the blessing of Abraham, looks at that bowl and makes a choice that echoes through eternity. I'm starving, he says. What good is a birthright if I'm dead? One bowl of comfort, one moment of weakness, one decision made with his stomach instead of his spirit. And the Bible records what happened next with brutal clarity. So Esau despised his birthright. Genesis 25-34. Despised. That's the word God chose. Not forgot, not overlooked. Despised. He treated the covenant like trash because his flesh was louder than his future. Years later, when Esau finally woke up and realized what he'd lost, the Bible says he cried with an exceedingly great and bitter cry. Genesis 27-34. But it was too late. The blessing had already moved on. Jacob had it. The birthright was gone. And no amount of tears, no amount of begging, no amount of regret could bring it back. You hear that? That's the sound of a man who missed his moment. That's what regret sounds like when it's too late to fix it. Now let me ask you something that might sting. How many moments have you already missed in your life? That phone call you never made to your mother before she passed. That apology you should have offered your child 20 years ago, but pride kept your mouth shut. That business idea that came to you in a dream, but fear told you to stay safe, stay small, stay in your lane. How many trains have already pulled out of your station while you stood there, paralyzed, convincing yourself there'd be another one coming? September 21st is that train. It's pulling into your station right now. You can hear the whistle. You can feel the rumble under your feet. But here's what most people don't understand. This train doesn't circle back. It doesn't make return trips. It pulls in once, the doors open for exactly the amount of time God ordained, and then it's gone. And you know what the cruelest part is? You won't know what you lost until it's already moving down the tracks with someone else on board. Let me take you deeper. Hebrews 12:17 says something about Esau that should terrify every believer. He found no place for repentance, though he sought it diligently with tears. Read that again. He sought it diligently. With tears, he begged, he pleaded, he wept. But the door had closed. The moment had passed. The blessing had moved on. That's what happens when you treat covenant moments like casual appointments, when you let comfort trump calling, when you choose the temporary over the eternal. September 21st isn't a suggestion, dear one. It's not a recommendation. It's not pastor's opinion or some mystical theory floating in the air. This is covenant. This is kingdom law. This is the invisible hand of God moving through time, creating specific windows where heaven and earth align, where the natural and supernatural collide, where ordinary people step into extraordinary destiny, but only if they're awake, only if they're watching, only if they understand that some doors only open once. I can see some of you right now sitting there thinking, I'll just wait and see. If it's real, I'll know. If it's God, it'll work out. That's exactly what Esau thought. That's exactly what every person who missed their moment believed. There'll be another chance. I'll catch the next wave. I've got time. Until you don't. Look at the Israelites in Numbers 14. God opens the door to the promised land. Go in, he says. Take what I've already given you. But they look at the giants, listen to the fear, choose doubt over faith. And God closes that door, slams it shut. An entire generation dies in the wilderness, never touching the blessing that had their names on it. 40 years later, their children walk into that same promised land. Same milk, same honey, same promise, but different recipients. The blessing didn't vanish. It just got reassigned. That's what happens when you sleep through your appointed time. Your blessing doesn't die. It goes to someone else who was hungry enough to stay awake. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. What if the financial breakthrough you've been praying for? The healing you've been believing for? The restoration you've been crying for? What if it's all connected to September 21st? What if God has been orchestrating events, arranging circumstances, positioning people and opportunities, all leading to this one day? And what if you miss it because you were too busy, too distracted, too comfortable, too cynical to pay attention? Do you understand what I'm telling you? This isn't about being superstitious. This isn't about lucky numbers or mystical formulas. This is about recognizing that God operates in specific times and specific seasons. He doesn't move randomly. He moves strategically. And when he marks a day, when he sets an appointment, when he whispers, "This is your moment," you better believe there are consequences for ignoring it. Jesus wept over Jerusalem because they did not know the time of your visitation. Luke 19:44. They missed their moment. The Messiah walked through their streets, and they were too religious, too proud, too blind to see him. And what happened? 40 years later, the Romans destroyed that city, stone by stone, life by life. Everything lost because they didn't recognize their day. September 21st is your day of visitation. The question that's going to determine your destiny is simple and terrifying. Will you recognize it? Or will you be like Jerusalem, crying over ruins, wondering what you missed? Because here's the truth, nobody wants to hear, missing this moment won't just delay your blessing, it will redirect your entire trajectory. You'll wake up months from now, maybe years from now, looking at your life and wondering why nothing's moving, why prayers feel empty, why doors stay locked. And somewhere deep in your spirit you'll remember. September 21st. The day you had a choice, the day heaven leaned close, the day the train pulled into your station. But you were scrolling, you were doubting, you were choosing comfort over covenant. So let me ask you one final question that's going to echo in your soul tonight. What are you going to do when the train starts moving and you're still standing on the platform? Now listen to me carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to reveal will explain every strange encounter, every uncomfortable conversation, every coincidence that's about to cross your path in the next 72 hours. September 19th, 20th, and 21st are not 3 random days. They are 3 tests disguised as ordinary moments. And walking toward you right now, whether you see them or not, are 3 shadows. Dark figures sent to see if you'll recognize them, or mistake them for harmless interruptions. The enemy never attacks with fangs bared and claws extended. He's far too clever for that. He hides his weapons inside familiar faces, comfortable routines, and advice that sounds like wisdom. And if you're not awake, truly awake, you'll welcome these shadows into your home, your mind, your spirit, and never realize they just stole your September 21st blessing. Let me show you exactly what's coming. The first shadow is envy. It won't announce itself. It never does. Envy wears the mask of your closest relationships. It could be your sister-in-law whose smile tightens when you share good news. It could be the church member who suddenly goes cold after you receive an answered prayer. It could even be your own adult child who throws subtle shade disguised as concern. You're getting your hopes up again, they'll say. You always do this. Their words sound protective, but listen to the spirit behind them. That's not protection, that's projection. They're not worried you'll be disappointed. They're terrified you'll succeed. Remember Joseph? His own brothers, his own blood couldn't stand the favor glowing on him. Genesis 37:4 tells us plainly, when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. They didn't hate Joseph because he was arrogant. They hated him because his destiny exposed their emptiness. On September 19th, watch for this shadow. It will arrive as a comment that stings, a look that lingers too long, a silence that speaks volumes. Most people dismiss it as someone having a bad day, but chosen ones know better. When envy shows up, it's confirmation that your light is burning brighter than you realized. The shadow only appears when there's something worth blocking. Don't you dare dim yourself to make them comfortable. Don't you dare apologize for carrying what God deliberately placed on you. Envy isn't your enemy, it's your evidence. The brighter you burn on September 19th, the more shadows will scramble to block you. Let them scramble. Your job isn't to convince them. Your job is to keep walking. The second shadow is distraction. This one is dangerous because it doesn't look threatening. It looks harmless, comfortable, normal. On September 20th, you'll feel pulled toward old patterns, easy escapes, mindless routines that have stolen more hours of your life than you'd ever admit. It might be the Netflix series that suddenly seems irresistible. It might be the friend who wants to gossip for 3 hours about nothing. It might be the urge to deep clean your closet when you know God is calling you to your prayer closet instead. Martha faced this shadow. Luke 10:40 says she was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. Jesus himself was sitting in her living room, and she chose dishes over destiny. She picked busyness over blessing. Why? Because distraction makes us feel productive while keeping us spiritually paralyzed. The shadow of distraction whispers, just this once, just one episode, just one scroll through social media. You deserve a break, and you do deserve rest, beloved. But not the kind of rest that numbs you. Not the kind that puts your spirit to sleep right before your breakthrough tries to wake you up. On September 20th, every comfortable choice will be a crossroads. Will you choose what feels easy or what feels holy? Will you lose yourself in noise or find yourself in stillness? The distraction isn't trying to destroy you, it's trying to delay you long enough that you miss September 21st entirely. Here's the brutal truth most preachers won't tell you. You can pray for breakthrough while simultaneously scrolling it away. You can declare victory while binge-watching defeat. You can fast from food while feasting on every distraction. Hell serves you on a silver screen. What are you feeding your spirit on September 20th? Because whatever diet you choose, that's what will show up in your strength or your weakness on September 21st. The third shadow is misdirection. And this one breaks my heart because it often comes from people who genuinely love you, people who mean well, people who are trying to protect you from disappointment. But chosen one, good intentions don't always carry God's direction. On September 21st, someone will give you advice that sounds perfectly logical. Be realistic, they'll say. Don't get your hopes up. Maybe you should wait a little longer. Are you sure God really said that? Their words will sound like wisdom, but your gut will feel uneasy. That uneasiness isn't doubt, it's discernment. Peter experienced this shadow. In Matthew 16:22, after Jesus revealed he must suffer and die, Peter pulled him aside and rebuked him. "Never, Lord, this shall never happen to you." Peter loved Jesus. Peter wanted to protect Jesus. But Jesus responded with words that still echo through eternity. "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me." Misdirection doesn't come with a pitchfork. It comes with concern. It comes with logic. It comes with friends and family who can't see what God showed you in secret. And if you're not anchored in what heaven whispered to you alone, you'll follow their voice instead of his. The test on September 21st isn't whether people support you. The test is whether you'll obey God even when everyone around you thinks you've lost your mind. Abraham looked crazy walking up that mountain with Isaac. Noah looked insane building a boat in the desert. David looked foolish running toward a giant with a slingshot. But they all had one thing in common. They valued God's voice above human opinion. They heard misdirection and kept walking anyway. So here's what you need to understand, beloved. These three shadows, envy, distraction, misdirection, they're not punishments, they're confirmations. They only appear when you're carrying something so valuable that hell has to intervene. If you see these shadows between September 19th and 21st, don't panic. Recognize them, name them, and walk right through them. The question burning in heaven's court right now is this: will you recognize the shadows, or will you mistake them for coincidences, bad moods, and friendly advice? Because here's the mystery most believers never discover. The shadows are the pathway. They're not blocking your destiny, they're marking it. Like breadcrumbs through a dark forest, each shadow confirms you're walking in the right direction. But you have to see them, to follow them. You have to discern them, to defeat them. And that brings us to the moment of ultimate truth. The moment when heaven stops whispering and starts declaring. The moment when everything you've survived, every shadow you've recognized, every distraction you've resisted, collides into one singular point of no return. September 21st isn't just another day. It's the day your entire destiny hinges on one choice. Listen to me, chosen one. Every moment of your life has been building to this. Every tear you've cried into your pillow at 3 in the morning. Every prayer you've whispered when your voice was too broken to speak out loud. Every battle you fought when no one was watching. September 21st is the day when heaven stops recording and starts sealing. This isn't just another sunrise. This is the moment when wet cement hardens into permanent foundation. Whatever you carry into September 21st, whatever emotion dominates your heart, whatever frequency vibrates through your spirit, it doesn't just stay with you for that day. It gets locked in, amplified, multiplied forward into every day that follows. Think about it like this. You're standing before a cosmic printing press, and September 21st is the moment when the ink meets the page. Whatever image is on that stamp, bitterness or faith, fear or courage, doubt or declaration, that's what gets pressed into the fabric of your future, not just once, over and over and over again. If you walk into that day carrying resentment, you won't just feel it on the 21st. You'll watch it multiply. That grudge you've been nursing, it becomes a forest of thorns. That offense you've been replaying, it becomes a loop you can't escape. The cement hardens around it, and suddenly you're not just remembering the pain, you're reliving it in every conversation, every decision, every relationship for the rest of the season. But beloved, if you walk into September 21st carrying faith, even faith the size of a mustard seed, watch what happens. That tiny seed gets sealed into soil so rich, so fertile, that it doesn't just grow, it explodes. Breakthrough doesn't trickle in, it floods. Doors don't crack open, they burst off their hinges. Because when heaven seals faith, it doesn't seal it alone. It seals it with acceleration, with supernatural favor, with divine momentum that makes up for every year you felt stuck. Now let me speak directly to you, dear warrior who's walked this earth for 70, 80, 90 years. Every wrinkle on your face tells a story that heaven has been reading like scripture. Every scar you carry, physical, emotional, spiritual, is a testimony that angels have been recording. Every prayer you whispered through decades of waiting, through seasons of silence, through nights when you wondered if God had forgotten your address, not one of them hit the ceiling and fell back down. They've been accumulating, building, compounding interest in the vaults of heaven. And on September 21st, beloved, all of it gets weighed, all of it gets measured, and all of it gets multiplied forward. Do you understand what this means? Your faithfulness in the hidden years isn't being ignored, it's being invested. And September 21st is dividend day. This is when God looks at the ledger of your life and says, Now I release what I've been holding back until they were ready to handle it. But here's the part that should make you tremble. This works both ways. The same divine law that multiplies faith also multiplies whatever else you're carrying. If you drag bitterness across the threshold of September 21st, you're not just dealing with one old wound anymore. You're dealing with that wound metastasizing into every area of your life. If you carry fear into that day, watch that fear spread like wildfire through your peace, your health, your relationships, your finances. The cement hardens, beloved, and whatever gets trapped inside becomes permanent architecture. So let me ask you a question that might sting. What are you carrying right now? Right this second. Not what you wish you were carrying, not what you're trying to convince yourself you're carrying. What's actually vibrating in your chest when you're alone with your thoughts? What emotion surfaces when nobody's watching? What frequency plays on repeat in the quiet moments between breaths? Because that, whatever that is, that's what you're about to seal into your future if you're not careful. But thank God we still have time. September 21st hasn't arrived yet. This isn't a eulogy, this is a warning with an escape route attached. You can change the cargo before the ship sets sail. You can clean the stamp before it hits the page. You can shift the frequency before the seal locks in. Think about Esther. For such a time as this, Mordecai told her. Esther 4:14. But that time wasn't just any moment. It was the moment, the pivot point. The day that would either save her people or seal their destruction. She had to choose, fast or feast, step forward or step back, risk everything or lose everything. September 21st is your such a time as this moment. And here's what makes it even more intense, the enemy knows it. Right now, while you're listening to these words, hell is in emergency session trying to distract you, discourage you, deafen you to the sound of heaven's alarm. The devil doesn't waste ammunition on empty threats. He only fights this hard when he knows you're about to inherit something he can't afford for you to have. That exhaustion you've been feeling, that sudden wave of doubt, those random conflicts and irritations, that's not coincidence. That's spiritual warfare ramping up because your breakthrough is so close that hell can smell it. The enemy is throwing everything he's got at you to make sure you walk into September 21st defeated, distracted, disoriented. But you're not going to let that happen because now you know what's at stake. Now you understand that this isn't just another day to survive. It's the day that determines whether you thrive or barely survive for the rest of this season. The entire year may pivot on how you move through this one day. Not just September 21st itself, but how you prepare your heart in these hours leading up to it. Every choice you make right now, every thought you entertain, every word you speak, every emotion you feed is either building momentum toward your miracle or resistance against it. So here's what I need you to do. Stop everything, not later. Not when you're done with your errands or your shows or your scrolling. Right now, close your eyes for just 3 seconds and ask yourself, am I ready to meet my moment? Is my heart positioned to receive what heaven is about to release? Or am I still dragging yesterday's baggage into tomorrow's blessing? Because September 21st is coming, whether you prepare or not. The cement is going to harden whether you're carrying gold or garbage. The seal is going to lock whether you're walking in faith or fumbling in fear. But you have the power to choose what gets sealed. You have the authority to clean house before the divine inspection. You have the opportunity to align yourself with breakthrough before the door swings open. If you are ready to walk into September 21st awake, alert, alive, if you're ready to meet your moment with clean hands and a pure heart, if you're ready to let go of what's been holding you back and grab hold of what God's been holding for you, say it now. Say it out loud wherever you are. Type it in the comments so heaven can witness your declaration. I will not miss my moment. Because, beloved, your entire destiny is waiting on the other side of September 21st. And I'll be standing there with you, watching you step through the door you were born to open. Listen to me, beloved. September 21st isn't just about you. It never was. Right now, somewhere in this nation, there's a grandchild whose name you whisper in your midnight prayers. Maybe they're drowning in addiction. Maybe they're walking away from everything you raised them to believe. Maybe they're one bad decision away from destroying their entire future, and you don't even know it yet. But heaven knows, heaven sees, and heaven has been holding back judgment on their lives because of your prayers, because of your tears, because somewhere in the unseen realm, your faithfulness has created a shield around someone who doesn't even know they're being protected. What if I told you that September 21st is the day when your intercession either locks into place for the next generation or expires? What if the torch you've been carrying for 70, 80, 90 years is about to slip from your trembling hands, and there's no one ready to catch it? Think about Abraham. Genesis 12:4 tells us he was 75 years old when God first called him. 75. The world would have put him out to pasture. But God said, Abraham, your real life begins now. The legacy I'm about to birth through you will shake nations for thousands of years. And it did. But what if Abraham had said, I'm too old. This can't be for me. I'll just coast into my final years. The entire story of Israel would have died in that moment of doubt. Think about Anna the prophetess. Luke 2:36-37 tells us she was 84 years old, widowed, living in the temple, waiting, praying, believing for something she couldn't yet see. 84, and the religious leaders probably walked past her every single day thinking, poor old Anna, still waiting for a Messiah who's never coming. But when baby Jesus walked through those temple doors, Anna's ancient eyes were the first to recognize divinity wrapped in infant flesh. Her legacy wasn't what she built in her youth. It was what she saw in her old age. And here you are. Maybe you're 70, maybe 80, maybe you've already buried your spouse, watched your children scatter, felt your body fail you in ways that make you question if you have anything left to give. But what if everything you've endured was preparation for September 21st? What if this one day is the hinge point where your faithfulness becomes your family's inheritance? Because here's the brutal truth nobody wants to say out loud. If you miss this day, the torch falls, not gently, not with ceremony. It crashes to the ground and shatters into 1,000 pieces. And that grandson you've been praying for, that daughter who stopped calling, that great-grandchild you've never even met, they walk into the next season unprotected, uncovered, unguarded. Your prayers have been holding back devastation they can't even see. But prayers aren't automatic. They're activated. They're renewed. They're sealed into the next generation on specific days when heaven opens the windows and says, this is your moment to transfer what you've carried. September 21st is that day. I know what you're thinking. I'm tired. I've prayed enough. I've carried this family for decades. When is it someone else's turn? And I hear you. God hears you. But beloved, legacy isn't built on convenience. It's forged in the final hours when quitting would be easier than standing. Moses was 120 years old when he stood on Mount Nebo and looked into the promised land he would never enter. Deuteronomy 34:7 says, Moses was 120 years old when he died, yet his eyes were not weak, nor his strength gone. Why? Because his assignment wasn't finished. He had to transfer the mantle to Joshua. He had to speak the final blessing over Israel, He had to seal what he'd carried for 40 years in the wilderness. What if you're standing on your Mount Nebo right now? What if September 21st is your transfer day? What if heaven is saying, I know you're tired, I know you're weary, but I need you to stand one more time. Pray one more prayer. Believe one more day, because what you release on September 21st will echo into bloodlines that haven't even been born yet. And here's the holy ache that should grip your soul right now. What story will heaven write beside your name? When the angels close the book on your life, when your great-great-grandchildren ask about you someday, what will they find? Will they discover that you stood in the gap even when your knees shook? Will they read that you held the line when everyone else retreated? Or will they see that you were so close, but you missed the final moment because you thought it didn't matter? Your legacy isn't measured in money. It's not counted in possessions. It's weighed in faithfulness on the days that look ordinary but carry eternal weight. And September 21st looks ordinary. It's just another date, just another sunrise, just another cup of coffee and another pill organizer and another episode of whatever helps you pass the time. But in the realm of the Spirit, it's the day your intercession either becomes immortal or dies with you. So I'm asking you now, will you rise one more time? Will you believe one more day? Will you speak life over generations you'll never meet, because you understand that your assignment isn't about you, it's about them? Because if you will, if you step into September 21st, fully awake, fully present, fully surrendered, heaven will seal your prayers into the foundation of your family tree for the next 100 years. Your grandchildren won't just survive, they'll thrive. Not because they earned it, but because you interceded when it mattered most. But if you sleep through this day, if you dismiss it as just another attempt to get your attention, the torch slips, and what could have been a legacy of blessing becomes a cautionary tale of almost. The choice has always been yours, but September 21st is the day heaven records your answer. Now the question becomes, what will you do with the time you have left before that day arrives? Listen to me very carefully. Chosen one. September 21st is not just a day that arrives and disappears like morning mist. It's a stone dropped into the river of eternity. And when that stone sinks beneath the surface, the ripples don't stop. They move outward. They touch everything. They reach places you'll never see with your natural eyes. Most people think blessings are static. They think a door opens, you walk through, and that's it. But that's not how the kingdom operates. In God's economy, every spiritual event creates waves that move through time itself. Every obedience multiplies. Every act of faith sends vibrations into territories you haven't even discovered yet. What you do on September 21st will echo. It echoes in your family. Your great-grandchildren who aren't born yet will feel the frequency of your faithfulness today. They'll walk through doors you opened with your prayers. They'll inherit blessings you activated with your obedience. Deuteronomy 7-9 declares that God shows love to 1,000 generations of those who love Him and keep His commandments. 1,000 generations, beloved. Your choices today are writing their story tomorrow. It echoes in your finances. That unexpected check 3 months from now. That job offer that seems to come out of nowhere. That debt that suddenly, mysteriously gets forgiven. Those aren't accidents. Those are echoes of September 21st bouncing back to you from the future. When you align with heaven's timing, prosperity doesn't just show up, it compounds, it multiplies. It gains interest in the spiritual realm until it manifests in your bank account at exactly the right moment. It echoes in your faith. The strength you'll need next year when the real test comes, it's being deposited into your spiritual account right now. The courage you'll need to make that impossible decision 6 months from now, God is transferring it into your soul's savings as we speak. But only if you're awake on the 21st. Only if you're present when heaven makes the deposit. But here's what terrifies me, and it should terrify you too. The echo works both ways. If you sleep through September 21st, if you treat it like just another Saturday, if you scroll through social media while heaven is trying to download your destiny, that creates an echo too. An echo of absence, an echo of vacancy, an echo of not home when the delivery arrived. And that echo of missing the moment. It ripples forward into regret, into what if, into watching others walk in blessings that had your name on them before time began. You'll be sitting in your living room next March, wondering why nothing's changed, why the door still won't open, why the promise still hasn't manifested, and you won't remember. You won't connect it back to that Saturday in September when you chose Netflix over the voice of God. I've seen it happen. I've watched chosen ones miss their moment and spend years, decades trying to recover what they could have received in a single day of obedience. They run in circles, chasing prophetic words, attending every conference, buying every prayer oil, wondering why the breakthrough keeps slipping through their fingers like water. And the whole time, the echo of their absence keeps bouncing off the walls of their destiny, creating interference with every blessing trying to reach them. But you don't have to be that person. You can be the one who creates ripples of abundance instead of ripples of regret. You can be the ancestor your descendants thank God for. You can be the hinge point where everything in your family line shifts from curse to blessing, from poverty to prosperity, from bondage to freedom. Think about this. Right now, somewhere in eternity, there's a version of your future that's already been written. In that version, you obeyed, you stayed awake, you honored September 21st. And because of that single day of alignment, everything changed. Your health turned around. Your marriage was restored. Your children came home. Your purpose became clear. Your provision became abundant. But there's another version too, a shadow version, where you missed it, where you were too tired, too skeptical, too distracted, where you let doubt convince you this was just another religious manipulation, where you chose comfort over calling. And in that version, you're still waiting, still struggling, still wondering when your moment will come, not knowing it already came and went while you were asleep. Which echo are you going to create? Can you feel it already? That vibration in your spirit? That trembling in your bones? That's not anxiety, beloved. That's recognition. Your soul knows what's coming. Your spirit can already feel the weight of September 21st, pressing against the fabric of time, trying to break through into your reality. The ancient Hebrews understood something we've forgotten in our microwave spirituality. They knew that certain days carried more weight than others. Not because God plays favorites with time, but because heaven marks specific moments for specific movements. The Day of Atonement wasn't just another Tuesday. Passover wasn't just another meal. Pentecost wasn't just another prayer meeting. These were appointed times, modim, in Hebrew divine appointments, where the supernatural crashed into the natural with such force that reality itself had to rearrange. September 21st is a mode, an appointed time, a kairos moment wrapped in a chronos package. And here's what most believers miss. When you honor a mode, when you show up for your divine appointment, you're not just receiving a blessing, you're activating a frequency. You're tuning your spiritual antenna to heaven's broadcast, and that frequency keeps playing long after the moment passes. It becomes the background music of your life, attracting miracles, repelling attacks, opening doors, closing tombs. It echoes in your family. It echoes in your finances. It echoes in your faith. It echoes in dimensions you can't even comprehend yet. But if you miss it, the silence echoes too. The absence creates a void that darkness rushes to fill. The enemy doesn't need to attack you if you're already asleep. He just needs to keep you distracted until the moment passes. Then he sits back and watches while you spend the next year fighting battles you could have avoided with one day of obedience. I need you to understand something that might shake you. The blessing God prepared for September 21st wasn't created on September 20th. It's been waiting since before the foundation of the world. Ephesians 1-4 tells us we were chosen before the creation of the world. Your blessing is older than time itself. It's been circling, waiting, looking for the exact moment when your obedience and God's timing intersect. September 21st is that intersection. Miss it, and the blessing doesn't disappear, it gets reassigned. Somewhere, right now, there's someone who will receive what was meant for you if you're not awake to claim it. That's not me being dramatic. That's Esther 4:14. If you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. The deliverance was coming either way. The only question was who would be the vessel. Type echo if you can already feel the vibration shaking your spirit. If something in you recognizes that this isn't just another message, another date, another religious moment, type it if you sense that eternity is leaning into September 21st with anticipation, waiting to see if you'll finally answer the knock at your door. Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly what happens when chosen ones honor the echo instead of creating silence. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Something impossible has been happening to you, and you've been calling it by the wrong name. You thought you were losing your mind. You thought you were falling apart. You thought the disconnect you've been feeling, that strange sensation of not belonging in your own life anymore, was depression, was age, was loneliness creeping in through the cracks of your golden years. But what if I told you that you weren't breaking down? You were being relocated. Right now, as I speak these words, you are a city being lifted and moved overnight. Not physically, though your bones might ache from the shift. Not mentally, though your thoughts have been swirling in confusion. Spiritually, your entire spiritual address is changing, and most people don't even realize they're in the moving truck. God doesn't just rearrange furniture in your life. He doesn't just redecorate the rooms you've been living in for 70, 80, 90 years. When He decides it's time, He picks up the entire foundation, everything you thought was permanent, and He moves it to higher ground. Deuteronomy 32:13 says, He made him ride on the heights of the land, not crawl, not climb. He made him ride. God doesn't ask permission when it's time to elevate you. He just lifts. But here's what breaks my heart about this divine migration. It feels like exile before it feels like promotion. You wake up and your own bedroom feels foreign. You look at your own hands and they seem like strangers' hands. You talk to people you've known for decades and suddenly there's a gap, a distance you can't explain. They're speaking the same language, but you can't understand them anymore. And you wonder, God, what's happening to me? Why do I feel so alone? Why does everything that used to comfort me now feel empty? Because, beloved, heaven already moved you. Your spirit has been transferred to a new zip code, but your mind hasn't caught up yet. You are not who you were. You are not yet who you're becoming. You are caught between, suspended in that sacred, terrifying space where God performs His greatest works. Think about Abraham. Genesis 12:1. The Lord said to Abram, Go from your country, your people and your father's household, to the land I will show you. 75 years old, and God says, Leave everything familiar. I'm moving you. Did Abraham feel ready? Did he feel young enough? Did he feel strong enough? No. He felt displaced, confused, like a stranger walking away from his own life. But that displacement wasn't punishment. It was positioning. Every relationship that suddenly feels distant, that's not them rejecting you. That's God creating space for assignments they can't walk with you into. Every place that used to feel like home but now feels like a cage, that's not you outgrowing your blessings. That's God preparing you for territory you can't even see yet. You've been feeling like a stranger in your own life because heaven already moved you to the edge of your breakthrough, but you're still trying to live like you're in the old neighborhood. September 21st is the day your mail gets forwarded. It's the day everything God has been sending to your new address finally arrives. But if you're still standing in the old location, checking an empty mailbox, complaining that nothing's coming, you'll miss the delivery that's already waiting for you 3 spiritual blocks over. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Divine migration requires divine cooperation. God moves you, but you have to move with him. He changes your address, but you have to stop trying to go back to where you used to live. He opens the door to the new territory, but you have to walk through it even if your knees shake, even if you don't recognize the landscape, even if everyone you know is still living in the old place. And I know what some of you are thinking right now, but I'm too old for this. I'm too tired. I've already lived my whole life in one place. Why would God move me now? Because the assignment waiting for you in your new spiritual location is bigger than anything you've done before. Because the people who need what you carry can't find you in the old zip code. Because the next 30 years of your life, yes, I said 30 years, require a different foundation than the last 70. God doesn't relocate you for retirement. He relocates you for recommissioning. But here's the danger. Most people resist the move. They feel the shift happening and they panic. They grab onto the old relationships, the old routines, the old ways of thinking, and they white-knuckle their way back to familiar territory. And God lets them. He never forces the migration. But when you choose to stay in the old place, you also choose to forfeit what was waiting in the new one. Joshua 3-4 warns, "You have never been this way before." That disorientation you're feeling, it's confirmation. You're on a path you've never walked, approaching a promise you've never touched, stepping into an identity you've never worn. The old you couldn't handle what's coming. That's why God had to move you first. Right now, your spiritual GPS is recalculating. Your soul is searching for new coordinates. And September 21st is the day the map loads completely. The day you finally see where you've been relocated and why the journey felt so disorienting. But you have to choose it. You have to declare it. You have to stop mourning the old address and start claiming the new territory. If you know you've been moved, if you can feel that your spiritual zip code has changed, even though you can't explain it, if you're ready to stop fighting the relocation and start walking into the new land, declare it right now. My address has changed. Type it in the comments. Speak it out loud. Let heaven hear you accept the transfer. Because, beloved, the movers have already loaded the truck. The new house is already furnished. The keys are in your hand. The only question left is, will you walk through the door, or will you spend the rest of your life standing on the porch of where you used to be, wondering why nothing feels like home anymore? September 21st is moving day. And everything you've been praying for is already unpacked and waiting in the place you didn't even know you were headed. But if you refuse to leave the old location, if you keep circling back to what God already closed the door on, you won't just miss the blessing, you'll miss the whole reason you were born. The divine migration isn't optional for the chosen, it's inevitable. The only choice you have is whether you'll move willingly, or get dragged kicking and screaming into the destiny that already has your name on the mailbox. So let me ask you one final question before we go deeper. Are you ready to stop living like a refugee in your own life and start walking like an heir who just inherited a kingdom you've never seen? Because what's waiting for you on the other side of September 21st isn't just a new season, it's a complete spiritual relocation into the land of promises you stopped believing could be yours. And the journey starts now. You know what nobody talks about? The day between the crucifixion and the resurrection. Good Friday gets all the sermons, Easter Sunday gets all the celebration. But Saturday gets silence. And that silence, chosen one. That's where most people lose their faith. Because after September 21st passes, after you've done everything you were supposed to do, after you've prayed and believed and stood in faith, there's going to be a Saturday. A day where heaven goes quiet, where your phone doesn't ring with the breakthrough, where your bank account still shows the same numbers, where the relationship still feels broken, where your body still carries the same pain. And in that silence, the enemy will lean in close and whisper his favorite lie. See? Nothing changed. God forgot about you. You missed it. It's over. But let me tell you something that will shake every doubt out of your bones. The Saturday after Jesus died was the most important day in human history, and absolutely nothing visible happened. Think about it. Friday, they crucified the Son of God. Sunday, he walked out of that tomb and changed eternity. But Saturday, his body lay cold in a borrowed grave. Saturday, the disciples hid in locked rooms, trembling and broken. Saturday, Mary wept until she had no tears left. Saturday, the enemy celebrated because he thought he'd won. Saturday looked like defeat. Saturday felt like abandonment. Saturday whispered, "It's finished," in the worst possible way. But here's what they didn't know. Here's what hell itself didn't understand. While everything looked dead on earth, heaven was rewriting the rules of existence. While Saturday looked like silence, God was shattering the gates of hell. While it felt like the end, it was actually the pause before the greatest victory the universe has ever witnessed. Your silence after September 21st is not your grave, beloved. It's your womb. Do you understand what I'm saying? A womb is dark. A womb is quiet. A womb feels like confinement. But inside that silence, inside that darkness, inside what feels like limitation, life is forming. Destiny is developing. Miracles are multiplying cell by cell, breath by breath, heartbeat by heartbeat. You've been praying for years, haven't you? You've cried out in the midnight hours when nobody else could hear you. You've whispered his name through tears that stained your pillow. You've stood on promises that felt like they were written in disappearing ink. You've believed when believing made you look foolish. You've hoped when hope felt like holding water in your bare hands. And now you're in the Saturday silence. Your friends got their breakthrough. Your neighbor got their miracle. The person who just started believing seems to be walking in favor you've been begging for. And you're still here, still waiting, still wondering if God remembers your address. Let me tell you what's really happening. When God is preparing something unprecedented in your life, something so massive that heaven itself has to rearrange to accommodate it, there has to be a Saturday. There has to be a silence so deep that every other voice fades away. There has to be a darkness so complete that when the light comes, you'll never doubt its source again. Job sat in his Saturday for months. Abraham wandered in his Saturday for 25 years. Joseph rotted in his Saturday in an Egyptian prison. David hid in his Saturday in caves while a mad king hunted him. Moses spent 40 years in his Saturday tending sheep in a desert, thinking his purpose had died with the Egyptian he'd buried in the sand. But their Saturday wasn't punishment. It was preparation. It wasn't abandonment. It was acceleration happening in the invisible realm. Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Your Saturday silence is proof that your Sunday resurrection is so powerful, it requires this level of hidden preparation. God doesn't go silent because he's forgotten you. He goes silent because he's doing something so profound that if you saw it happening, your human mind couldn't process it. If you heard the heavens shifting on your behalf, if you witnessed the angels being dispatched, if you saw the enemy's kingdom crumbling before what's about to manifest in your life, you'd faint from the sheer magnitude of it. The silence is not abandonment. The silence is divine strategy. Think about a woman in labor. There's a moment right before the baby comes called the transition. It's the hardest part, the most painful part, the part where women often say, "I can't do this anymore. I want to quit. I want to go home." But here's the medical truth. That moment of wanting to give up means the birth is seconds away. The moment you feel like you can't go on is the exact moment when you're about to push out your promise. You're in transition right now, chosen one. And I know it hurts. I know it feels impossible. I know you want to quit. But that feeling, that's not a sign you're failing. That's a sign you're about to deliver. Your Saturday silence is the transition before your Sunday morning. But you have to hold on. You have to stay in position. You have to keep believing even when your eyes see nothing and your ears hear nothing and your circumstances scream everything opposite to God's promise. Because here's the prophetic word burning in my spirit right now. What God is preparing to birth through your Saturday silence will make everyone who witnessed your Friday crucifixion fall to their knees on your Sunday morning. The same people who wrote you off will write songs about your comeback. The same voices that declared you finished will be silenced by your flourishing. The same circumstances that buried you will become the soil where your greatest testimony grows. But you cannot abort in the Saturday. Too many chosen ones quit on Saturday. They make it through the pain of Friday. They survive the crucifixion of their dreams, their relationships, their finances, their health. But when Saturday comes with its suffocating silence, they walk away. They stop believing, they stop praying, they stop hoping, and they never see their Sunday. Don't you dare be one of them. Don't you dare let the silence steal what the pain couldn't kill. Your resurrection is scheduled. Your breakthrough has a date. Your miracle has an appointment. And that Saturday silence you're sitting in right now, it's not delaying it, it's protecting it. It's incubating it. It's making sure that when it arrives with such force that every door that closed will be blown off its hinges. The tomb is not your ending, beloved. The tomb is just where you're being kept safe while God arranges your grand entrance. So when September 21st passes and the silence comes, when you feel forgotten, overlooked, passed by, when it seems like everyone else is celebrating their Easter while you're still stuck in your Saturday, remember this moment. Remember these words. Remember that the greatest miracles in history were all preceded by a silence so profound that it felt like death itself. Your Saturday silence is not proof that God is absent. It's proof that He's working in dimensions you cannot see, orchestrating outcomes you cannot imagine, preparing blessings you cannot contain. And when your Sunday comes and, oh, chosen one, it is coming, the silence will make sense. The waiting will have meaning. The pain will have purpose. Because Saturday, silence always precedes Sunday resurrection. But here's the question that will determine everything. Will you trust the silence? Or will you let it convince you that your story is over? Listen to me, chosen one. There's a story buried in the book of Joshua that most preachers skip over because they don't understand its true power. They read it like ancient history. But what if I told you it's not history at all, it's prophecy? A blueprint written in blood and dust for this exact moment in your life. Picture this. The walls of Jericho. Not some crumbling fence, we're talking 40 feet high, 15 feet thick. Fortified stone that had never been breached. The city inside mocking, laughing, watching as a ragtag nation of former slaves circles their impenetrable fortress. Can you imagine the humiliation? Day one, march around in silence, the guards on the wall pointing, jeering. Look at the fools, they think walking will save them. Day two, same route, same silence, same mockery, nothing changes, the walls stand, the promise seems like a lie. Day three, blistered feet, burning sun, whispers of doubt spreading through the ranks. Moses promised us a land of milk and honey, all I see is dust and defeat. But Joshua says march. So they march. Day four, children asking their fathers, when do the walls fall? Fathers with no answer except, we keep walking. The elderly stumbling, bones aching, wondering if they'll die before deliverance comes. Day five, the enemy grows bolder. They're not even watching anymore. They've dismissed Israel as irrelevant, harmless, defeated before the battle began. Day six, the hardest day. Because tomorrow is supposed to be different. Tomorrow is the promise. But today looks exactly like yesterday. Exactly like the day before. Exactly like failure marching in circles. But here's what breaks my heart and sets my spirit on fire. At the same time, most of God's people quit on day six. They've marched, they've believed, they've trusted, and when nothing changes by the sixth lap, they walk away. They go back to Egypt in their minds. They settle for slavery because the promise is taking too long. Are you on day six right now? Have you been circling your Jericho, that marriage, that healing, that financial breakthrough, that prodigal child, and the walls are still standing? Have you prayed the same prayer so many times your own voice sounds hollow? Have you fasted, sowed seed, believed God, and woken up to the same unchanged circumstances. Let me tell you what the Israelites didn't know on day 6. The walls were already cracked. They just couldn't see it yet. Every footstep, every act of obedience, every silent march was creating fractures in the foundation. The enemy thought they were just walking, but they were sowing earthquakes. Because here's the law of the seventh day: everything that looks like nothing is actually everything building underground. Day 7 arrives. Joshua says, "Today you march 7 times, and on the 7th lap, you don't walk in silence anymore. You shout." Can you picture it? Elderly warriors with weak knees, young mothers carrying infants, teenage boys whose voices are just breaking, all of them filling their lungs for the roar of their lives. And here's what wrecks me every time I read this: the walls didn't crack. They didn't crumble slowly. Joshua 6:20 says the wall fell down flat, instantly, completely, totally. One moment it's impossible, the next moment it's obliterated, but only for those who showed up for the 7th lap. Now let me bring this home to your soul. September 21st, that's your 7th lap. You don't know it yet, but every prayer you've prayed, every tear you've cried, every night you've stayed faithful when faith hurt, it's been circling your Jericho. And the walls are about to fall flat. But you have to show up. You have to stop treating this day like just another Tuesday. You have to understand that while everyone else is scrolling and sleeping and complaining, God is positioning you for the shout that brings the walls down. The enemy wants you to quit on day 6. He wants you to look at September 20th and say, "Nothing's different. Nothing's changed. This is just more religious hype." But chosen ones don't measure breakthrough by what they see. They measure it by what they obey. Right now, I need you to do something. I need you to type in the comments, "Walls fall now." Not because it's magic words, but because your obedience in this small act is training your spirit for the shout that's coming. When you declare it with your fingers, you're rehearsing for when you'll declare it with your life. Can you feel the ground starting to shake? That's not your imagination. That's the sound of 40-foot walls meeting a God who specializes in impossible demolition. That's the sound of your breakthrough finally breaking through. That's the sound of everything the enemy said you'd never have, never be, never see coming down in one catastrophic moment of divine justice. But here's the truth nobody wants to hear. If you're not positioned on September 21st, if you miss the 7th lap because you're distracted, discouraged, or just plain asleep, the walls might still fall. But you won't be there to walk through the rubble into your promised land. Someone else who was paying attention will inherit what had your name on it. So I'm asking you now, will you quit on day 6, or will you show up for day 7? Will you scroll past this moment, or will you mark September 21st as the day everything changes? Because the shout is coming, the walls are already trembling, and the only question left is, will your voice be in the roar when Jericho falls? Beloved chosen one, if you've made it to this moment, if you're still here listening to these words, that alone tells me something profound about your spirit. You are not a casual observer. You are a marked one. And September 21st is not just another day, it's your divine appointment. Remember this: God doesn't waste dates. He doesn't randomly select moments for breakthrough. When heaven circles a day on the calendar, it's because every prayer you've whispered, every tear you've cried, every act of faithfulness in the dark has been building toward that specific hour. You are not too late. You are not forgotten. And the walls that have surrounded your life for years are about to meet the God who specializes in impossible demolitions. But I need you to understand something that will anchor your soul in the days ahead. You are not walking this path alone. Even when it feels like you're the only one who understands, even when your own family thinks you've lost your mind for believing God is still moving, there is a community of believers right here, right now, who see what you see, who feel what you feel, who know that September 21st carries weight that the world cannot measure. We are here. We are praying. We are standing in agreement with you. The God who opened the Red Sea is still opening impossible pathways. The God who made water spring from rocks is still creating provision where there should be none. The God who raised Lazarus from a 4-day-old grave is still speaking life into situations that everyone else has pronounced dead. And right now, as I speak these words over your life, something is shifting in the heavenly realm. Angels are moving, doors are creaking open, strategies of the enemy are being exposed and dismantled. But let me ask you this. When September 21st arrives and your walls finally fall, when the breakthrough you've been fighting for suddenly manifests, when God does in one day what you couldn't accomplish in 40 years, will you remember this moment? Will you remember that you almost scrolled past this message? Will you remember that you were seconds away from missing the most important word God has spoken over your life this year? Now, before you leave this sacred space, I want to pray over you. Not a casual prayer, not religious words that float away like dust. I want to place my hand on your shoulder through these words and speak directly to your spirit. Heavenly Father, eternal God, the one who holds time in your hands and destiny in your breath, I come before you now carrying the weight of every person who has heard this message. Lord, you see them. You see the grandmother in Brooklyn who's been praying for her prodigal grandson for 17 years. You see the widower in Queens who wakes up to an empty house and wonders if his best days are behind him. You see the elderly saint who's been faithful in the small things, serving in silence, believing when belief hurt. Father, I pray that you would place your mighty hand upon them right now. Let them feel your presence like a warm blanket in the coldest night. Let them know beyond doubt, beyond fear, beyond circumstance, that they are loved, they are seen, they are chosen. God, I pray specifically for September 21st. I ask that you would mark this day with your glory. Let it be a day of divine reversal, supernatural breakthrough, and impossible manifestations. Let walls fall that have stood for generations. Let doors open that human hands have locked. Let provision flow from unexpected sources. Let healing rush into bodies that doctors have given up on. I pray for their minds, guard them from doubt, from fear, from the whispers of the enemy who wants them to quit before the breakthrough arrives. I pray for their hearts, heal the wounds, restore the hope, reignite the fire that the world tried to extinguish. Most of all, Father, I pray that they would not walk through September 21st asleep. Let them be awake, alert, positioned, and ready to receive everything you've been preparing for them since before they were born. In the name of Jesus, who conquered death, defeated hell, and holds the keys to every prison door, I declare breakthrough, I declare deliverance, I declare that what God has promised will come to pass. Amen and amen. Now, beloved, I need you to do something for me. In the comments below, I want you to share what God is speaking to your heart right now. Don't hold back. Don't worry about sounding too spiritual or too vulnerable. This is your tribe. These are your people. And your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear, to keep holding on. If you need prayer for something specific, write it down. Let this community surround you with intercession. If God revealed something to you during this message, share it. You never know who needs to hear your story to believe their breakthrough is possible. And if this message touched your soul, if you felt the weight of these words settle into your spirit, please share this video. There's someone in your life right now, a friend, a family member, someone you haven't talked to in years, who desperately needs to hear that September 21st is marked for their deliverance. Don't let them miss this moment because you kept silent. Finally, if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. We're building something powerful here, a community of chosen ones who refuse to sleep through their destiny. Every week, we're releasing messages designed to awaken, encourage, and equip you for the supernatural life God has called you to live. Thank you for trusting me with your time. Thank you for opening your heart to these words. Thank you for being part of a remnant that still believes God does the impossible. September 21st is coming. The walls are already trembling. and your breakthrough has your name written on it. Don't miss it. Until we meet again, walk in the authority of who you are. You are chosen. You are loved. You are never alone. God bless you mightily.